Good evening and welcome to the November meeting of the Open Space Greenways Committee. We have just adjourned a study session at 6:30. We're talking about the Friends of the Open Space, like a brainstorming session. And I'd like to start the meeting by pledge allegiance to the flag.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Each of you have the minutes of the September meeting. The October meeting was canceled because of sicknesses and unavailability of many of our members. So I'd like to entertain a motion to review those minutes and to approve them as submitted.
Second.
And the minutes stand approved. As far as revisions to the agenda, I'd
like to make a revision to the agenda.
Okay.
We need to discuss website update and responsibilities.
Okay. And there's two other items that just announcements. One of which is the open space policy concerning acquisition of additional properties. We'll talk about that for just a moment. So we'll make that, and also a tribute to Art Kester. That'll be items number 7 and 8. I'd like to make a motion. Do we have to make a motion for each one, or do we make a motion for all of them? Just one motion for all of them?
Motion to accept the...
Okay, make a motion that we accept the amended reports or the amended agenda. All those in favor?
Second on
Yes. Okay, and the next item on the agenda are the reports for the township. Wally, anything new?
Well, there's a lot of things that I can tell you about, and some of them you will put on later on in the program, but we did get a board study session, and I think that board study session was somewhat fruitful. You can elaborate on that when you get into that section, Cliff.
Okay.
As far as things going on in the township, we have 2 township board meetings left in 2015. And the next one after that will, of course, come in January. I appreciated the input from Pat about website updates. I read the frustration. I share the frustration. And we'll talk about that later, too. I don't want to take your thunder away on that. I also want you to all go into the township ordinances, take a look at commissions and committees' general rules about attendance. We have some changes coming in attendance. We've had discussions about absenteeism in the past, and it's going to happen this time. Okay, so that's all I have to. I'm going to elaborate on it privately.
Oh, okay. Okay. Along with that, I received a notice, and I think I told Pat during our study session that Darryl Filarski went into surgery today for his eyes. He had an eye surgery today, so he will not be here this evening.
And when did he give you that notice?
Monday.
The attendance is 75%. He's below 50. You know, if we want to talk about it a little bit right now, look around you guys. We're short.
I know that.
We need horses. And we have one horse who's been our horse for years. And if he could make it another 10 years, I'd love to have him back. But he won't be. I love Art dearly, like a brother. He's a knight. He's a friend. He's married to a sweetheart of a lady. And he's given his heart and soul to this. But it's time for us to move on with him, and he knows that now.
Yeah.
He's accepted that. The other gentleman, every other month there's a reason. And he's taking up space of a horse. Okay? We need people in here at the meeting to discuss events and to volunteer and do things. Not, you guys can't all do it, 3 or 4 of you. Can't happen. Not anymore. And that.
Bert? Oh, excuse me, anything else?
Nope.
Well, okay. Bert?
Okay, the Grosedale Nature and Land Conservancy is having its annual meeting on Saturday, November 14th at the Grosedale Golf and Country Club, starting at 10 a.m. So everyone is invited to attend. The speaker will be Bob Burns. He's a Grosedale resident, member of the Friends of the Detroit River and the Detroit River Keeper. And his talk will focus on updating us on the projects that are happening and about to happen on Stony Island and Celeron Islands. So that should be an interesting update on what's going on.
When is the meeting again? I'm sorry. I didn't.
Saturday, November 14th, 10 a.m. to noon, and a continental breakfast is provided.
And that's at the...
At the Grosedale Country Club.
Yeah.
So it's free, so please come, and we'll look forward to seeing folks there.
Coffee, donuts,
There's usually fruit and some, Yep.
Yeah.
fruit, yogurt.
Okay. Thank you, Bert. Recreation Leigh is not here again tonight, so that's the point. We have to address that issue as well.
Am I of the understanding that she is here in a reporting capacity? She's not a board member. She's
Correct.
Not a commission member.
Yeah, that's liaison.
As far as that goes, Cliff, we can talk to. I just got out of a 6 o'clock meeting in rec. I can bring things to here in replacement for Leah. Leah's got another commitment. Okay? So we can't.
Yeah, she does have
I had a rink meeting tonight at 6 o'clock. Rink.
Okay. Yeah. Well, Leah does have a conflict, which is another meeting tonight. So I think what I'd like to do is, if that's a condition, then maybe we should ask Leah if she can get a permanent replacement for her from the Rec Commission to report to this.
I will attempt to fill that until such time as the path becomes clearer. Okay.
Okay. Right.
He wasn't prepared to do that tonight. Didn't realize that Leah wasn't going to be here. But I don't know. Maybe we should just talk to Leah and tell her to come when she can.
Well, we should have a representative from the Rec Commission attending our.
We should have a representative from this commission on their group too. But you only got 4 horses.
That's right.
All right.
Okay.
I don't see any more.
Okay. Anything else? Okay. I stand corrected. I did have Art on the agenda for talking about it tonight. To make a long story short, we prepared a letter to Art Kester thanking him for his many years of service on the Open Space Committee. And through our joint agreements, we're going to establish for him an honorary committee member, a member emeritus position. I had the pleasure of meeting with Art and Claire. It was quite an emotional meeting to review this with him. He was very, very appreciative of the letter that he received. He said this was the best one that he's received so far, and I'm very pleased with him. We're going to miss him. So with that being said, I did speak to Carol Knopp today, and she's going to make arrangements to publish an opening on the Open Space Committee to replace Art Kester, but Art will still, and I request that he, I'd like to ask here that he place a permanent member on our agendas as a member emeritus, if that's all right with you. Any questions about that?
Perfectly fine, and you will ask for 2 vacancies.
Whatever, okay. Okay. So each of you have a copy of this letter, and again, I want to thank Art for his many years of service, and also I want to thank everybody in this committee who signed the letter in unison. Next item on the agenda is the trail updates. As far as the Manchester Trail is concerned, work is progressing very satisfactorily. I see that there's been some more chips that have been delivered. We have a target date, a completion date of December. I walked the trail about a week and a half ago, and very pleased with the work done so far. There's quite a bit of work to be done, obviously. The contractor agreed to, thought it'd be a good idea to make a couple of very rough sawn, not rough sawn, but rough rest benches in various locations along the trail. It's going to be about 1 3/4 miles long.
I took a picture of that. Do you want me to spread it, pass it around?
Sure. But I'm very pleased with it, and when it's finished, I'd like to have a little, kind of like a little opening ceremony for that trail. There's been a lot of work gone into it. Ms. Lewis has been instrumental in getting us off dead center. I've said this many times before, and looking forward to having that trail in place. I just want to mention that everybody that I've run into who has walked the trail, even if it's in its current state of construction, says it's a wonderful job. It's very beautiful, and they're very pleased with what we're doing. People who have walked the trail. Just okay. Pat, the Wildlife Sanctuary.
Before you leave there, I had a thought when I was walking the trail. I know this usually gets me in trouble because it means more work.
Means more work for Pat.
Yeah, but we have at the Wildlife Sanctuary a very nice sign. I don't know how it got there, who put it there, that says Wildlife Sanctuary. And if you look at the lovely brochure that we put out, we identify what the trails are, and yet when you go to the trails, there's nothing there that says, this is the Manchester Trail, this is the Playscape Trail. Would it be of any benefit, because it will be a cost factor, to actually put the trail name up as you enter?
We could attach the name of the trail to the existing post. Okay. In other words,
that would be a good idea.
We could have signs made for the 4 trails with the trail name, and then we could attach it to the existing post.
Okay.
3 signs on the trail. First of all, it says trail entrance. The second one says motorized vehicles not allowed, and the third sign would be the name of the trail.
Okay. That sounds good.
Who's going to stop the motorized vehicle? They put spikes in.
Well, the only, it's like any other enforcement. You have to catch people in the act, and if you happen to see them in the act, and there's an ordinance against it, there's a sign posted, and if you caught them in the act, then they're subject to a ticket or a fine or whatever can be done. But the thing of it is, you have to catch them in the act.
That's right.
Okay.
You're 9 times out of 10.
Well, that's fine. But do you want to be the 10th person? You take a chance,
I'd like to make a motion that we put the trail sign as you described on each of the trails, because it'll be a cost factor, so we need a motion.
We don't know that. Why don't we'll just make a motion to investigate the pricing. I'm all for it.
Okay.
Let's investigate pricing and bring it back to next
Okay,
meeting.
so,
Where'd you
Pat,
get
I
your
guess
signs from?
you put that in the form of a motion then, Pat, and somebody will second it?
I move that we initiate investigation as the price that would be involved to put the trail names on the current existing post that has the trail entrance identified, the ordinance identified, and then add the name of the trail and bring it back for the next meeting.
Second.
Huh?
Good.
All those in favor?
Not yet. We're not done discussing.
We have to discuss.
Done discussing. Which
Oh, we
trails
just-
do you want to have labeled other than the Manchester Trail? The Playscape Trail? The
The ones that we have
Sanctuary?
identified in there, I think there are 4. It's the Playscape, Centennial. We don't need it for the Wildlife
No, you've
Sanctuary
got
because
that.
we have the big one.
Yeah.
So it would be 3.
Right. That's
Manchester, Playscape, and Centennial Farm.
Yeah.
and it doesn't have to be 4 foot by 8 foot.
No, no.
Oh,
Reasonable size.
maybe about the same. I'm thinking about maybe around the same size as the one says no motorized vehicles allowed, but a different color and they're different, compatible. So we'll come up with a proposal and a pricing, and
And
we'll
you're
have it
going
ready.
to do that then?
I
It's
can
your
do that,
action?
yeah.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
bring it back as an action next time.
Okay, the wildlife.
Vote now.
Pardon? Yeah, we have to vote. I thought we did. Okay, I'm sorry.
Oh, we needed the
All-
discussion. Now we vote.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. The wildlife sanctuary. Pat?
We haven't really had any activity on the wildlife sanctuary. I had to chuckle because I did receive a phone call. Somebody informed me that there was a red oak that we did not mark with blue. So I
Somebody
think it's
else-
working.
Yeah.
I think people are now walking through the woods and looking and sort of knowing what they're seeing. We did go out and put up more tree identification tags. So we're getting there. And just to remind you that I'm planning in the spring to put up an entry sign, sort of like they have down at, what is it, the Sunshine Park, where it gives the history and some educational material to continue improving that trail as a educational trail.
Okay, anything else, Pat, as far as the...
Nope, that's all.
Okay. Darrell is not here to report on the Centennial Farms, but that's maybe the next trail that we have to look at as far as upgrading is concerned. The Playscape, again, that trail has been upgraded, not upgraded, but we put chips on there. I think we have to put some more chips. And I don't know how much that trail is used. What I'd like to do is I'd like to assign, instead of me, I'd like to assign somebody else to look after the Playscape. So I want you to think about it, and maybe when we get a new members, we can assign him or her to the Playscape trail. We'll dispense with the public comments, and as much as we do not have anybody
I'd
here.
like to make a statement as a public comment.
Oh, all right.
We delay it till somebody wants to show up later.
I had an interesting thing presented to me by one of the members on another committee I serve on. He found out that you can go to the state of Michigan and have brochures placed at their welcome centers. And it doesn't cost anything to put them there. You drive into the welcome center and a brochure that perhaps talks about 16 pages of trails on Grosse Ile might be something nice to have there for people that stop by.
We have 16.
We have 16-page.
The
Oh,
new
sure.
booklet, 16 pages.
The Recreation Department has something called channels. which you can put at the welcome centers. Brian in the bike path is wanting to develop along the same theme, something bike path oriented, and Jane Fiegel has in fact done a rough draft of that. Jane's a workhorse too. She just like you, the opportunity to put it there, I would like to have this board's blessing to dig into seeing what it would take for us to get them there.
They're doing it down at the Ohio border, is that?
Yeah, one on the Ohio border, one on I-96, one north of the city. We can keep them in southeast Michigan. If you wish, I will pursue finding out quantities and how to get them there. The only thing you can't have there is anything political or religious. But it's an opportunity for us. We complain about we don't have any off-island publicity. Well, let's get some. Oh, that'll never work. Well, nothing ever works until you try it. Right, so let's try it.
We do have quite a stash of brochures left. I might add that the brochures that have been distributed at the Kroger stores has been very successful. I think they're going through their second box now that they have.
I've gotten feedback from people about that, very positive feedback that they like it.
It's a good brochure. Why
is.
wouldn't somebody driving up from Ohio who happens to be visiting Aunt Lulu in Melvindale say, look at this, they got trails and bike places and we could probably stop and spend an afternoon there. That's what this is all about, right?
Right.
What is the investment, the cost of the brochures and getting them there?
Well, Wally, what you're going to do is you're going to check with and see if they will accept our brochure. Do you have they'll probably ask for a copy of it.
Oh, yeah.
And so do you have, the copies are available?
I believe I have a few copies.
Okay.
And I'll take them with me.
Would we want to pursue and put some of those in local libraries? Trenton Library, the Wyandotte Library, etc.?
I don't know why we wouldn't. What can they say? No.
Right. You want to expand your volunteer time to include all those?
I can try that.
Okay, if you need help, let me know.
All right.
Okay. So you talked about it. And I'll do it, the Wyandotte Library as well.
Unfortunately, if we really want this to be effective, once we do that, someone should follow up and say, do you need more?
That's part of the program.
Yes,
Yeah,
okay.
Got that program.
Okay, got it.
And the other thing is, now how do we get the copies to them?
Wally, I thought you
How about
said
that?
he and
Okay.
I will
I'll
handle
make it happen, but I didn't want to send it down there and have the commission not be aware of what I was doing.
Very good. Okay. Okay.
Coastal
So,
Nature and Land Conservancy could do that too.
well, you have copies as well.
I'd like to see a Rose eel shelf down there. Get in those places, they've got rows and racks of shelves and
Right.
Where's that?
biking. The welcome centers on I-75 and I-96.
Yeah.
The beginning
Yeah.
I know the Conservancy, you have your copy. How do you
I can't speak for the Conservancy. I'm just making Bert aware of it. Maybe she can take it her folks and see if they'd like to do it too. It just
Yeah, I can bring it up. The Conservancy prints about 500 newsletters 3 times a year. I know in these welcome centers, a lot of times what you get is it's a small, double-sided flyer about an attraction. So I think it's worth a try, but I would be a little hesitant to take too many 16-page brochures to a place, thinking that, that we're really, I think it could be a waste of our brochure.
as compared to keeping them in a box if it's somebody's
Well,
garage.
right.
I understand.
Right.
I understand, but we got to try something.
That's a good point, and we may want to consider doing something like that if we see that there is some interest in this.
Sure.
I mean, you guys did a great job on that. So all the information is there. It's to find out the best way of getting the information out and tweaking it for whatever format we need. The
I don't
hard
know that
work's been
somebody's
done.
going to come driving across the bridge with it in hand, but you plant a seed.
Yeah.
You don't plant seeds, you don't get anything.
Right.
So you're going to report to us back in the next meeting, okay?
See what we can do about getting them out there.
Good idea, Wally. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Okay. The next group of items is the report on items that are in process or completed, or maybe some discussion items. The first one is the dump the junk update. Woody, can you relate to us the results of the October event?
Yeah, we're going to 14,
Roll-off trucks? Roll-off boxes.
roll-off boxes, we brought those in. We had, John Klein came and mashed it down on Saturday.
Amen. Woody, you do a good job at
We're
that,
going to do it
too.
again in April of next year, and
How much money did we make on the,
I don't know yet, we haven't got the money back.
oh, okay.
So when we get it back, I thought we'd have it for the last meeting, but to present it to
Anything else, Woody? Okay, thank you. Anything on the oak wilt update, Pat?
There have been no new sightings of oak wilt sent into the website that the forestry runs. So that means, as far as I know, there was only that one sighting several months ago. So that's a good sign. Woody has asked that I contact them to find out when we can start our wood cutting again, or if we should never do it, so I will do that.
Okay.
And although we had no sightings here, I did receive, I think it was from you, Bert, to look at the tree, the memorial tree by the police station, because it looked like it was in distress. And the reason I'm telling you this, so that you can see that the process we have in place works. Bert contacted me. I went down, I took a picture of the tree in distress, sent it to our volunteer forestry people. Within a day, we had their comment back that no, it was not red oak wilt. Yes, the tree was in distress, and a recommendation on what to do. So if we do find red oak wilt, we know that those people will be there to assist us.
Yes. Good job.
Just as an additional point of information for all those who are maybe watching on TV, the red oaks and were identified with a blue splot paint that volunteers applied when they were going through the open spaces, and that was done during the months of August and September.
Right.
So I've received a number of calls and said, what the blue paint is for, so I explained it to them. So I'm just going up publicly to say that if you see a blue paint splotch on an oak tree, you will see that that's part of the oak wilt program that we went through last summer to identify all the red oaks on the island in open spaces, and to further identify those that may have been infested.
Now, just so everyone knows, when the leaves start coming out in the spring, it will be rather easy now to walk the woods and make sure that none of them are distressed. So that's one place where we will need volunteers again.
Okay. All right, the next item is for discussion is the Friends of the Open Space program. Just I'll open up by making we had a brainstorming session before the meeting, a study session, to kind of kick this thing off and to get it organized, whereby we're asking members of the community to join us in helping us care for the open space by doing a number of items. And we made a good start. Basically, we're going to we listed the items that we want people to do, or things that we need to have help on, such as, I'm not going to list them all, but such as volunteering for the dump the junk or wood cutting programs, identifying hazardous trees, reporting illegal dumping or illegal activity, and helping us to maybe spread chips as required. But those are just a few of the things. We're going to identify various nonprofit organizations on the island, and we're going to create a group of residents. We're going to ask for volunteers to help us with some of the things that need to be done. We'll have a sign-up sheet. And so we're not quite finished with getting this thing organized. We're going to be talking to schools, churches, and other civic organizations. Is there anything else that I've missed, Bert? Pat? So we're going to be kicking this thing off, just letting you know that we're going to be asking for help from the community and helping us take care of the open spaces. The next item is a trail maintenance program. One of the things we need to do is, now that we got 4 good trails, or we'll have 4 good trails on the island, we need to firm up, call it a PM program, preventative maintenance, by which these trails are kept up in good condition by a prescribed program. And I think we need just somebody to sit down and develop what needs to be done and how often it needs to be addressed. So I need you maybe to think of that, and at the next meeting we'll make a formal motion. We'll present the program, and we'll have it all organized, and it's something we'll follow. It might have to do it twice a year or once a year. But just think of some of the things that should be done to properly maintain the open spaces, the open space trails. Any other discussion on that? Bert?
Well, yeah. Pat, did you report on someplace that had trails and how they maintained them? I think I remember you talking about that.
It wasn't really a report. It was just findings that, as we've been traveling around, I always hunt up people who have been maintaining it and finding out what they do and how they do it. I can formalize it a little bit better for next month.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so I can check with the refuge about if they have a maintenance plan. And also, I had a friend that put in the trails at the Pine River Nature Center up by Port Huron. So I can ask her if, did they have a formal plan they followed?
Case in point, but why I would think it's so important that we develop this meaningful discipline program is that we're spending $17,000 to upgrade the Manchester Trail. It's going to be 1 3/4 miles long. It's going to be a very good trail, and I want to make sure that once it's done, it's maintained properly, along with all the other trails that we have, the other 3 trails, official trails that we have.
I think it's critical that we have this because we no longer have a millage. Excuse me. And eventually our maintenance money is going to run out. So before we would ask the residents of the township to consider a millage, we need documentation to show what money is needed, why it's needed, etc.
Well, that's going to be the next item, one of the items that we added, and that is the financial report, and I'll be talking about that in just a couple of minutes. The next item, and we had a study session recently in which we talked about open space acquisitions, and I'll go into the policy that was published in a minute. But one of the items that came up, and there's no action item, but somebody made a recommendation that maybe we should combine the acquisition fund and the maintenance fund into one open space fund to take care of both acquisitions and maintenance. Right now we have two funds which are not interchangeable. We have $520-some thousand in the acquisition fund, and as of the beginning of this fiscal year, we had $358,000 in the maintenance fund. That was as of April. So I'm not asking for any decision tonight. I just something that I need each of you to think about and come back, and we'll have a discussion concerning the pluses and minuses of that proposal.
Cliff, before we do that, is this legally acceptable to do it? Are we wasting our time?
Can I interject? Right now, our issue has been the two separate funds, and they cannot be unless the voters approve it.
Yeah.
This would have to go on a ballot and allow the township residents to vote whether they would like to see us combine them. Now, a little background. Those of you will remember that there was a spirited effort to figure out how to spend it someplace else other than open space.
Right.
Yeah.
That isn't going to happen legally unless it goes to a vote of the people. But I thought that at our study session, I felt that was a positive, that they would in fact go out and allow us to put on put on the ballot a proposal to combine the funds, which means that no matter what happens, it still stays an open space and can be used for purchases, and it can be used for maintenance interchangeably. I think that gives us more flexibility, and it keeps the control of the fund in our hands. If we find this peach of a site that we really want to buy, we might have to take every red cent we've got and do it.
We can have these 5 people or 6 people don't vote for it. I don't care how peachy it is.
That's right. But again, if you don't do anything, you're going to get the same results.
We could
Yeah.
beat our butts off trying to get this up, and we get up to the...
No, I'm not about to throw up my hands and say I'm defeated. No way. We're going to go after combining. In my estimation, that's a good idea.
Yeah, but what I want to do is that Wally's absolutely right. It has to be, they would have to be voted on by the voters. But before we even proceed with such a proposal, I think the Open Space Committee needs to come up with a consensus, or in other words, either they would support something like this or would not. So that's why I'm asking each of you to think about it and talk about it at the next meeting. All right, now we have two items that we have added to the agenda. First of all,
3 items.
well, 2. We already talked about Art Kester.
Oh, all right.
Okay. The one is the website. We discovered that we have a problem with the open space information on the website, is that it goes on the websites, but we don't have a coordinated effort to remove it when it's no longer valid or no longer necessary. So I think what we need is a means by which we have somebody who is responsible to contact Ted Fournier and say, this is what we want to put on the website in terms of information for the open space program, And when it's the issue or the item that's put on the program or on the website is no longer necessary, we contact them and tell them to take it off. Right now, we don't have that. So I'm looking for somebody to kind of coordinate that if we have something that goes on the website, the person contacts Ted and it goes on the website. And then we audit the website. When the item is no longer valid, Ted takes it off.
In the past, haven't we been doing whoever's in charge of the project calling Ted and directly interfacing with him?
Yes.
And you don't think that has been working?
Well, I have no problem with doing that if it'll work. Okay.
Yeah.
But if you think that's a good idea to redo that, now there was a case in point, for example, tonight's meeting. Last in September, due to some unforeseen circumstances, we had to cancel the September meeting. So the item I went on the website that the meeting was canceled, and that notice is still there, and it created some confusion, I think, even for tonight. So if it's the feeling of the committee that if you put something on the website, it's your responsibility to make sure it comes off when it's no longer valid.
I don't see it on the website tonight. I'm looking at it.
What do the other members think? Do you want to be in charge of doing your own project and seeing that it goes on the way you want, etc.? Or do you want to have to go through another layer in order to do it?
Whoever has it, do it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Take it, put it on, take it off.
Okay. Bert, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. Fine. That's what we'll do then. Okay. Okay, the next item is the open space policy, and I'm going to read this policy and give you a little background.
We added it.
You got it in front of you, Woody. The policy. Don't you have that?
Looking for it. Here, you can pass it along. Yeah.
To give you a little background, there was some questions raised concerning the Township Board's policy regarding open space acquisitions. And as a result of this issue, Wally Posiask and Jim Budney put their heads together, and we had a study session. Was it a week ago Monday, Wally?
A week ago Monday, that's correct.
In which we put this item on the agenda. And what we're looking for was a unified policy from the Township Board concerning open space acquisitions, instead of having what I call it, a plethora or a lot of different opinions and statements every time we bring up a piece of property for review for purchase. And I'm going to read the policy. The following policy relating, and this policy was consented by the Township Board. The following policy relating to purchases of open space was consented by the Township Board in a study session held on Monday, October 26, 2015. The Township Board will support the purchase of additional open space property, providing it conforms to the following conditions. It contains desirable ecological properties, provides connectivity with other open spaces or vacant property, contains 5 or more acres, or is adjacent to or part of an area containing 5 or more acres, and it can be purchased yet at the lowest possible price. So that's the policy. Now with each proposal, there's always some other issues that may be in place and which we will discuss with the board. But with this, I hope, will preclude a plethora of or a bunch of discussions about, I don't believe this, or I don't believe that, et cetera, et cetera.
This is too big, this is too small, this is not in the right place.
Yeah, you think that's really gonna happen?
Well, you know what?
Again, if you don't do anything, you get the same results.
I know that, but-
I think it's really going to happen. I think it's got a better chance than it did 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
So
Because it
let's,
seems like we just-
I'm going to defend these guys because Cliff and I beat our heads together for a long time on this, and I'm going to give credit to Jim Budney too. It was his idea that said, this is crazy. We can't give this man 7 different directions every time. It's a waste of his time, and it's an insult to his intelligence. The man has done it for a long time. Let's give him guidance that all 7 of us can agree with. And that policy is what was agreed to.
Is this policy right here?
Yes, that's it. And that was agreed to by the township board.
That's correct.
Let's see how they abide by it.
Well, there's going to be some tests made in the near future, so we'll see. But if the old saying is, if you don't try,
I understand.
you won't do. Okay.
You tried and tried and tried and tried till hell freezes.
I am not going to sit by and waste another second of this meeting throwing rocks at them. That's yesterday.
Okay.
Let's go.
Okay. We'll see what
Let's
happens.
give my township board members an opportunity to see whether they'll live with the policy or not. I believe they will.
Okay. Any other comments concerning the policy?
No, good job, both of you. Thank you for your time and effort.
I'm glad you went through it, but
And I know it's skepticism, but Wally's absolutely right. We don't start in the past, we start now, and we go forward. Okay, the last item is something that I just handed out. It's an open space maintenance report. What this is just a report to see what we have spent so far this year. Let me explain it to you. Basically, the first line item is, do we want to put this up on the screen? We can do that. On the floor.
What I have to do now is figure out how to
Gotta
zoom in
focus
on
it.
it.
you gotta blow it.
Blow it up.
Somebody in the back doing it for me.
Okay, and then focus it as much as sharpen it as much as you can.
Tech support, can you sharpen that up a little bit? No, the other way, right there. Oh, too far.
Back just a little bit.
Good, right there.
Okay.
Okay.
Just to give you a little background, we have the maintenance fund, which at the beginning of the year had $358,000 in the account. Each year, the township board asks us to prepare a budget of what we think we're going to spend in maintenance funds for the fiscal year, which runs from April through March. In other words, from April of 2015 through March of 2016. The budget consisting of these line items, and I'm not going to go through each and every one of them, we established a budget of $51,600, which included some rather large expenses for trees removal and cleanup, the publishing of the open space guide, and the upgrading of the trails. The next column is the amount that has actually been spent from April of 2015 through the month of October. We spent $12,380. The next column is the estimate of the monies that we're going to spend between November of this year and March of next year. And let me just key in on the two large items. As far as the dumpster program, the dump the junk program, the $2,693 that's in the account was only for the May event. The October event has not been booked yet. So I'm estimating that to be around $2,700. The next item is the work that we're doing on the Manchester Trail, which is $17,000, which was approved by the Township Board as a result of competitive bids that were asked for, and the bid that was received and accepted. The other items are estimates about normal expense items that are occurring. So that'll be about $27,500. The total we have spent and that we plan to spend between now and the end of the year is about $39,880, which is about $11,700 less than what we had budgeted for. Again, let me emphasize, the estimates from November through March are just projections. The $17,000, however, is a pretty firm figure because that was received as a result of the quote. Now, I like to do this about at least twice a year, and if the board feels, if you folks feel we should do it 4 times a year, we can do that as well. That kind of gives you a thumbnail sketch of what we're doing.
Twice a year seems to be adequate to me, if you're asking my opinion. And furthermore, because you were $11,000 below what you said you were going to spend, doesn't mean you lost that money. It just, you've got it in the account for future. Sure. So we don't waste it, you know, and it's not taken away.
No.
But there might come the expense where that year you're going to need $95,000 and you got it.
In other words, we may have a major catastrophe which may require.
But you do the same thing. Recommend it to the board and let them make their decision. Legitimacy will get you the money approved.
Are there any questions or comments, Bert?
Well, I'm looking at the numbers, maybe I'm just not understanding. So the maintenance fund as of April 1st was $358,000, and we're projecting that we're going to spend $39,880, right?
Yes.
So the fund for April 1st next year should be almost $40,000 less, right? So it should be.
Well, what we'll do, we kind of use what we call a zero budgeting. We take a look at, in March, when we establish the budget for next year, we start off by saying, okay, now, what do we think we need to spend next year? So it's called zero-based budgeting, I believe. Pat, am I right? Where you start off from scratch. You know, say, well, we spent so much last year. We use prior year as a guide, so to speak, but we start off by saying, what do we need to spend to maintain the open spaces? And we do that on a yearly basis.
Now, do you have a lower level breakout per trail? This is the combined everything we've spent on all 4 trails and everything, right?
As far as the open space trails is concerned, let me see, just a minute here.
The reason I'm asking is we've started building information. For example, I think at the beginning of this year we were saying, at least for the wildlife sanctuary, about every 3 years we need to remulch. Mm-hmm. So in order to really start tracking and figuring our budgets, if we had a lower level tracking system, so we could say, okay, last year we did the mulching for the wildlife sanctuary, so we should not have that expense next year. So we can start building it that way and sort of project how we're going to have to do it. Because, for example, right now I think we just put in X amount for mulching, spread chips and upgrade trails. But if we had a lower level detail, we could really tell that some years are going to be light and some years are going to be heavier, depending on if we're having to remulch 3 trails, 1 trail, 2 trail.
Yeah, I see
That makes
yeah.
sense.
Yeah, we
I
can
mean,
do
it's a heck of a lot more work, but
Well, yeah, the thing of it, yeah, if, and that's why the trail maintenance program, I think, is very important to do that. In other words, there's some things, a trail maintenance program says we have to do this certain things have to be done every 6
Right.
months, some things have to be done every year, some things have to be done every 3 years.
right.
And that'll go a long ways towards looking at what we did 2 years ago and say, well, this year is the year we have to do this.
Right.
In other words, for example, we knew that we had to provide a new open space guide. when we
Right,
began
and
this year.
that is almost what I would call a capital expense versus maintenance. For example, if we were to decide to put a bridge in at the Manchester Trail, that really would not be a maintenance, it would be
Yeah.
capital
Yeah,
expense.
but
type. Upgrade,
it calls, yeah, we mean.
one time only, whatever.
Yeah, it's as far as the maintenance account is concerned.
Right,
It's
but
a
I mean-
word. It's a word.
Exactly.
But some of the items we have to do may fall in the area of just plain maintenance, or it may require a capital expenditure.
Right, okay.
All right. Any other questions or comments?
Well, I guess, let me go back to my question, and maybe I'm just not understanding but if we start with a maintenance fund of April 2015 of $358,000. No, April 2015. Right.
Wait a minute.
And we project that we're going to spend, with
That number is wrong.
what, April 2016?
Yes, that
Right.
number should be 30,
318,120.
yeah, 318,120.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, that's my error.
That's on
Yeah.
1620?
Yeah. In other words, you take 358,000 and subtract 39,880 from it,
Right.
and you're going to come up with about about $318,000. Yeah, I'll make that change.
So 318 on the 16.
Yes, 2016.
Start with.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, well, it's gonna be less than that because we haven't come in with the dump the junk, or what it's gonna cost us.
Well, that's included in there, Woody. When we take a look at the estimate for the dumpster, call it the dumpster programs, we spent $2,600 in the actual in April or May of this year, and as I said, the October event has not been booked yet, or has.
On the October event,
Yeah.
it's not included.
Well, I estimated about $2,700.
Okay, all right.
That was just a guess. Okay.
Well, we're gonna find out, all right?
Yeah, I can see Bert's question. That was strictly a computer error, Bert. Okay, so it's $318,120 approximately. So we'll be doing this twice a year.
Yeah, looks good. And I think, Pat's suggestion to drill down more specifically, that would get it even more, accurate for future projections and
Yes.
stuff.
In other words, year by year, there may be more, may be less, depending on what we're going to do. And I said, and I'm being repetitious by saying, with a good maintenance program, we will address that issue.
Yes,
Okay?
good.
All right. Are there any other issues or items that you'd like to start off with? Wally, anything else that...
That's all for me tonight,
Okay?
other than the fact that I remind you that there is no open space meeting in the month of December.
That's right. Woody? Okay.
What, is a shame or that there's no meeting?
So everything that was due at the next meeting is really not due until
Well,
January,
let's do it the next meeting.
at the next meeting.
Yeah, which is January.
Right, wow.
That's what I just said, yeah.
On the website.
Okay. Pat, is there anything else?
Just in September, we sent out 13 letters to new residents, and in October, we sent out 24.
Up on the bridge.
13
For September,
September.
And October was 24.
24 October. Okay.
And my thanks to Carol Knope for helping me with all this.
Wally, question, does the township board aware of the fact that that's one of the things that we do is we send them each letter, when a
Oh, yes.
resident moves to Grosse Seal,
Yes,
we send them a welcome letter and a copy of the open space guide.
yes, they are aware of it.
Anything else, Pat?
Nope, that's it.
Bert?
I forgot to mention the Groseville Nature and Land Conservancy is having an owl prowl on November 20th. So I think that's a Friday. So it's an evening event at Centennial Farm with the naturalist.
Okay. When is it again? September?
November 20th.
November. When is
So it'll be Natalie Cipher. She comes and she talks to families about owls and their habits, and then we go outside and walk the trails, and we have owl calls on her. Everything now is on people's smartphones, and so when owls hear somebody, another owl calling, they can't tell that it's just a cell phone, then they feel like their territory is being invaded, and then they'll call back. And so it's really neat. You start out with the little owls, eastern screech owls, and then you build up to the bigger owls.
Woody's trying to figure out what he can use that for.
Well, lets you know what's around us, the wildlife around us. They dissect owl pellets, and they learn what the owls are eating. So it's a real fun family educational program.
Okay, is there anything else?
No.
Okay, I have nothing. I've spoken a lot tonight, and I apologize for that. But again, in December we have a very important issue to take care of, and that's our annual dinner. And
Hello's is closed.
hope everybody can come. So, a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 During the luncheon.
We're no longer live.